Howdy folks, welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty jingles. This, in case it wasn't immediately obvious, is a Panzer IIJ replay, so you pretty much know what to expect. This is Les Miserables. He's driving his Panzer IIJ premium German tier 3 light tank, the light tank that has 85mm of armour at the front of the hull and the turret, and 50mm everywhere else. It's as heavily armoured to all intents and purposes as a KV-1, but it's only a tier 3 tank. Only available via gift box codes. You can pick them up on eBay, and they're not cheap. This thing is not as rare as it used to be. Obviously a lot of you have been visiting eBay and getting these tanks. And I guarantee you've probably never seen a Panzer IIJ game like this before. Watch what this guy's doing at the start of the game. He's actually parking his tank up. You know, this is not a bad strategy. Well, it could backfire on him. It could totally backfire on him, because if his team kills everything while he's camping in a corner here, he's basically just thrown the game. Well, he hasn't thrown the game, but he's going to get nothing out of it. On the other hand, if his team fails and he's the last one alive, he's going to win. And his team... Let's just say that this tactic pays off in a spectacular way. Look at that. It's a 49% chance to win. It's basically a 50-50 match. I don't have individual stats enabled at the moment for XVM, so I can't actually tell how bad his team is, but I'm guessing pretty terrible. You'll see what I mean very, very shortly. I mean, you know, you can look this guy's stats up. And my guess would be that, judging by the fact that XVM is saying this is a 49%er, and then watching the performance of his team until he gets involved, I'm going to guess that he's a very, very good player. And he is the only reason XVM is rating this at a 49% chance to win. And since he's not doing anything, his team is doomed. It's the only explanation. I'm sure some of you are going to go and check this guy's stats out on Noob Meter after watching this video, but that would probably be the most likely explanation, the one that certainly makes sense given what you're about to see happen. His team are losing 8-0, 9-0. And here comes the first enemy tank. Just rammed an AFK artillery, oh, and there's his first kill. There is very little on the enemy team. As long as he can keep his front angled towards them, very little that can penetrate his armour. And everybody who has any premium ammunition, the second they realise they're shooting at the front of a Panzer IIJ, does switch to premium ammunition. And you can't, absolutely no problem with that. Look at the hit tracker spam there on the left of the screen. Oh my lord. Is there anybody left alive on his team? No, there we go. He's now the last one left alive on his team. He is the only person to have killed anything. The team were that bad. This would have been a 15-0 defeat if there hadn't been a Panzer IIJ on his team. Watch this. Panzer II on the enemy team has switched to APCR. Can't blame him. Cannot blame him. Even with APCR, you're not going to penetrate the front of a Panzer IIJ unless you can get around the sides and aim for that hatch on the side of the hull. These guys are lost. They just don't know it yet. Pretty much the only balancing factor of this tank. But bear in mind, it also gets premium matchmaking. it can run into trouble if it gets into a tier 4 game. Matildas will give you problems. You will not be able to hurt a Matilda driving this tank, even with premium ammunition. The Matilda will be able to penetrate you. But when you're top dog in a tier 3 game, driving this tank is like having an I win button. The only things that can give you problems are, well, howitzers. Professional seal clubbers and T-18 tank destroyers with the 75mm howitzer firing high explosive. Artillery will give you problems. If you sit in one place long enough, like that, the T-57 has moved up and is now starting to shell him. The T-57, the artillery is the only thing that's hurt him so far. There's guys on the enemy team who have premium ammunition, Panzer 1C, Panzer 2, and they have it's going to be one hell of an expensive loss for them. And Le Miserable here is not going to make a profit on this game. He's probably going to lose 50,000 credits, just purely from his ammunition costs. That is really the only significant balancing factor of the Panzer IIJ. The fact that you cannot afford to run it all the time. It's just too expensive a tank to drive. Of course, the only 2 tanks left alive on the enemy team, he's killed 13 of the enemy team. The only 2 tanks left alive are the only ones that can actually hurt him. I'm just amazed that this tank is still in the game. But Wargaming have kind of dug themselves into a corner with this thing. You know, people have paid real money just to get this tank. They can't go and just suddenly take it away from them. I mean, they can. The end user license agreement quite specifically states that Wargaming can change whatever the hell they want, whenever they want, but the whole point, I mean, people have paid a lot of money to get this tank because it does this. Oh, there's the artillery. Can you imagine the uproar if a tank like this existed in the higher tiers? Tier 8, 9, 10, hell, even tier 5, 6 or 7. It just wouldn't be allowed. The only reason this tank exists in the game in its current form, without being nerfed patch after patch after patch, is because it's tier 3. It's a very rare premium, and you don't see many of them. You see more of them now than you used to, and I'm probably partially responsible for that. I'd love to know how many people have gone out and got themselves a Panzer IIJ purely because of the videos that I've done about it, but it's still a very, very rare tank. And that's the only reason that it's allowed to continue in the form in which you see it here. I mean, he's single-handedly wiped out the entire enemy team. Well, he's still got to kill the T-82, and the T-82 could have the 105mm howitzer, but even if he has the howitzer and he's firing high explosive anti-tank ammo, he's going to need to hit him more than once. So it's all just a question of how much health the T-82 has and whether or not his gun's pointing in the right direction. And you could argue, and you'd be absolutely right, that this is despicable team play on behalf of Le Miserable here, and I certainly can't argue with that. You know, he camped in a corner until his entire team died, and then he came out and killed everything. But at the same time, it could very, very easily have backfired on him, and he could have gotten nothing out of it. If his team had been capable of killing even a single enemy tank, he would not be in this situation. So, you know, one way or another, he was still going to have to kill every single tank on the enemy team. And that's exactly what he did, because he's driving a Panzer IIJ. Seal clubbing and medal farming at its finest. That is, look at that. I've never seen. It's tanks like this are the reason why you can't get a Radley Walters or a Pools medal unless you're killing tier 5 and higher tanks. It's just, this tank only has 260 health. He took nearly 300 hits in that game and bounced almost 4,500 points worth of damage. And with a premium account, he lost 46,000 credits, and that is the only thing that balances the Panzer IIJ. It's just too expensive for you to keep running it game after game after game. That doesn't mean it's not funny to watch, of course. Okay, that's enough seal clubbing. What's next? Well, we've just seen one guy bouncing ridiculous amounts of damage because he's in a tank that's completely overpowered. But I don't think anybody would ever argue that the IS-4 was an overpowered tank. This is Mad Vulture. Tier 10 game, obviously, is in an IS-4 on the Karelia map. Now, the IS-4 is a well-armoured tank, but it's not that well-armoured. I mean, it's no mouse. It's got a good gun. It's reasonably mobile. It's a good all-round Tier 10 heavy tank. It doesn't really excel in any one way, or at least that's what I thought until I watched this replay. See, it turns out that well, you know, everybody should know what side scraping is, but reverse side scraping, I've seen KV5s do reverse side scraping where they back their tank up into cover and then, while keeping the rear of the tank behind cover, angle, move forward so that they're only showing the side armour and their turret in order to keep the radio operator turret weak spot covered up. But I've never seen anybody do it in an IS-4 before. And it turns out the IS-4 is incredibly good at it. Now I think I think the E75 that he shot at disappeared as his shell was in the air, so we don't know whether he hit him or damaged him, but it looked like he hit the E75's lower glacis, and yep, he's taken damage. Now, the E75 is side-scraping, and he's been spotted, and there's the Waffenträger E100. Watch this. Tracks eat it. Turret bounces it. Side armour bounces it. Second shot into the Waffenträger, tracks eat it. Damage taken, 0 points. And that, in a nutshell, is a perfect example of reverse side scraping. It seems completely counterintuitive. You're actually showing the weakest armour of your tank to the enemy, when in fact you're not. Yes, you've got your back pointed towards the enemy guns, but the rear armour is covered up by the rock that he's hiding behind. He moves forward with his turret pointing over the back of the tank. And the only thing he's really showing is his spaced side armour and his tracks, and the front of his turret. The only real problem when you're doing this reverse side scraping is your gun depression, because it's just not possible to get the gun pointed down over the back of the tank. And so this sort of thing is not going to work on a lot of terrain in World of Tanks, a lot of broken, uneven ground. It's perfect in city streets. And he's got a pretty good position for it here, it has to be said. He's going for the E75 again, and the E75 is waiting for him to come out. There you go, another turret bounce. There's an AMX 5120 on the other side, but he can basically side scrape against both of them from this position. And he does have, well, he doesn't have much of a shot at the E75, but artillery's taken an interest in him. He's going for a poke. Oh, there we go. I thought a little bit too much. Poked his arse out just a little bit too much there. The AMX 5120 took advantage of it. But the second shot, nothing. The third shot, nothing. The fourth shot, nothing. And it doesn't matter that his tracks have been blown off because he's in the perfect position. Anyway, he doesn't need to move. Tracks pop back up. Nudges forward, looks for a target. That Waffenträger's taken a beating. He and the AMX are on the other side of the rock though, so he's angling for a shot at the tortoise. Fires for the weak spot. It bounces. Back into cover. Tortoise knows better than to waste shots at an angled IS-4 like that. It doesn't have much on the tortoise, but there's an E100. Oh no, this is not good. This is not good at all. They're heavily outnumbered on this flank, and the team, it must be said, is getting its ass kicked. But look at this. Yeah, no problem. No problem. No damage taken. The AMX 5120, because of this reverse side scraping and the angling that he's doing, the AMX 5120 is the only tank on the enemy team that has done any damage to him whatsoever. He's in severe danger of getting overrun here, of course. Well, you know, that IS-7 with him he's not going to last long. Look at this. Oh, artillery support just when he needed it. That was good. Good job, Artie. Nice shot. But he's heavily outnumbered here. And the 5120 is doing it again. Look at this. He's just wasted another magazine shooting at exactly the same spot that he failed to penetrate the first time around. He is heavily outnumbered here, by the way, and artillery obviously is acting purely out of a sense of self-preservation, because if Mad Vulture dies, artillery is next. There's just Mad Vulture and a Waffenträger E100 left on this flank. And our Waffenträger's just nailed their Waffenträger. AMX 5120 is probably reloading. Artillery's going for him now, and thankfully missing. He's going for the rangefinder of the E100. E100 still doesn't have a hope in hell of actually doing any damage to him, as long as he stays at this angle. But this is his last round of armor-piercing ammunition. After this, he's down to his premium and his high explosive. And this is when things start to go horribly, horribly wrong. And I think it's fairly safe to say that it's at this point where frustration and panic start to get the better of him. Missed the killing shot on the E100. His team are crumbling around him. He's practically surrounded. He starts, next shot at the AMX misses, and suddenly he's got an Object 140, an AMX, an E100, and an AMX 5120 all shooting at him. His team are crumbling around him. Here comes the AMX 5120. A lot of people would panic under exactly these circumstances. So, you know, I'm not being judgmental about it. I'm just trying to set the scene for you about what's going through his mind here. And it's more or less about this stage where he's thinking, you know, who am I going to shoot at? Who am I going to shoot at? No, I'm not shooting at them. I'm getting shot at from here. And then he thinks, no. And yet it's as if you can hear him taking a deep breath and thinking, right, first things first, kill the E100. Okay, artillery managed to knock out the 5120 before he died. He's now the last tank left alive on his team. He knows there's nothing behind him anymore. Now he's killed the E100. And they're pretty much all in front of him. So he's got an AMX 1390, an Object 140, and it would be real nice that this was an unfortunate miss. He really could have used the kill on that Object 140, but it was not to be. The 1390, from cover, starts shooting at the front of his tank, and this is some well-aimed shots from the 1390. He's not firing premium, but he's still penetrating, and there is the 50B. His first shot blows his tracks off and does damage. His second shot and splash from artillery reduces him to 13 health. Alright, take your time. Reverse side scrapes around the rock again. He can one-shot this AMX 50B. As he's waiting for the shot, he bounces a hit from a Jagdpanzer E100 firing armor piercing, kills the AMX 50B, starts reversing back into the rock to side scrape against the Jagdpanzer E100, who's down that way somewhere. And then it's as if his spider sense is tingling and he's thinking, nope, artillery. And he moves. And not before time. There it is. Not today, Artie. Moves position. There are dead tanks here he can use as cover. IS-8. And he's spotted. 704, use him as cover. Starts reversing to side scrape, and he did actually bounce a gold ammunition shot from the IS-8 before the Jagdpanzer E100, after bouncing when firing armor piercing with his first shot, reloaded high explosive to make sure that he killed him with a second shot, doing 13 damage and knocking him out. So the result was a bit of a heartbreaker. Almost 900 experience on a defeat. And it wasn't so much the damage that he did in that game, although he did a respectable amount of damage, you know, 4,500 damage done. But it's the damage that he didn't take that makes that game special. 11,180 damage blocked by his armour. He took 34 hits, 17 penetrations. But the overwhelming majority of those penetrations were simply chewed up by his tracks, thanks to the way he was reverse side-scraping the IS-4 in that game on Karelia. I've never seen anybody play an IS-4 like that before, so Mad Vulture, thank you very much for sharing that replay with us here on YouTube. So, what have we got for the final replay? Oh, Jingles, you all complain. All you ever do is show us people in top-tier tanks curb stomping all the puppies. It gets boring after a while. How about you show us somebody who isn't a top-tier tank? Oh, I don't know. You're always complaining, aren't you? Okay, challenge accepted. Here you go. This is Lieutenant Welkins. He's in a Tier 9 match on Prokhorovka, and he's driving the Tiger, Tier 7 German heavy tank. Well, one of the two Tier 7 German heavy tanks, the other one obviously being Ferdinand Porsche's Tiger prototype, the Tiger P. There's a Tiger P in this game as well, but Welkins is driving the good old Henschel Tiger. And it is beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, look at that. HD Tiger model. I love this tank. Everybody loves this tank. If you don't love this tank, there's something wrong with you. Just look at it. Square heads down for the big Bosch gangbang. It's a great big boxy German brute of a tank, and I love it. Of course, the Tiger in World of Tanks comes with the KWK-43 88mm gun, which it didn't have in real life. That was the gun that the Tiger II had. The Tiger, here at Tier 7, had the KWK-36 L56 88mm gun, and what the hell is this IS-6 doing? Watch this. Well, that was pretty inevitable. What did he hope to achieve? Just, I don't know. You do often see that. Tier 8 premium tank drivers, because they have such a massive credit earning coefficient, he's probably actually going to make money out of that. It just drove forward, did nothing, spotted a bunch of tanks and died, and he'll probably, if he's running a premium account, probably run a profit. And that's probably why they do it. Seems like a waste of a good tank to me, but... Well, anyway, Welkins hasn't actually done any damage yet. And in case I hadn't pointed it out, it is a tier 9 game, and he is in a tier 7 heavy tank. But it's a Tiger. And it has a fantastic gun. Now, this replay is pretty much Welkins just using this gun. He doesn't really move from this spot much. And, you know, a lot of people are going to say in the comments, oh, it was a boring replay, he didn't go anywhere. Well, the IS-6 moved. You saw what good it did him. There we go, first damaging shot fired. Planted one into an IS. Ooh, tank up front taking some hits. And why move? Look at the AMX there. It's lost half of his health. You see, knowing when to move and when not to move, and I make no claims at being an expert in judging the correct time to move and the correct time to stay still. And it's easy to, you know, to sound as if you know everything when you're watching a replay and you've had the opportunity to watch it a couple of times. But it really, really is one of the big tricks of being successful in World of Tanks, is knowing when to move and when to stay where you are. And right now, moving would be a very, very bad idea. He's got tanks on both flanks. Now luckily those guys over there are not paying any attention to him all the way over here. It could be, well, the chances are they can't see him anymore. Once that KV-5 had died, or was it a KV-4? Whatever. Once that big fat Russian heavy in front of him had died, he's not being spotted over here anymore. But he's got plenty of... Oh, blind shot kill. Oh, he's been spotted. Not quite sure who it was who did it. It's possibly... You know, look at this. Just... The Tiger used to be a pretty bad tier 7 heavy tank. When I unlocked the Tiger, I was massively disappointed in it. And it wasn't just because... I mean, there was an element of, oh, now I have a Tiger, I will kill everything. Oh, hold on. Because, of course, the Tiger is balanced against... You know, the Tiger doesn't fight the kind of tanks that it chewed up in World War II. It fights the kind of tanks that are balanced against it, because this is a game, not a simulator. So there's that. But the Tiger also, it wasn't that good. The gun rate of fire buff really changed the way this tank plays. That 88mm gun is so good. Look at this. And I have to, you know, credit where credit's due. Welkins has... I mean, occasionally it misses. But it's not because Welkins is doing anything wrong. Over 200mm of penetration. Laser-like accuracy. And a blistering rate of fire for a heavy tank. When this tank got buffed, it really, really made me happy in my pants. I do apologise for the image that's just conjured up in all of your minds, but look at this thing go. You know, this is just what the Tiger does. It is such a fantastic sniper. I love this tank, and I love seeing this tank do well. And Welkins is doing well in this game. There's the E75. Side of the E75. Drops back a bit so he can point the gun down. Shoot into the sidearm. We're going for the ammo rack. And look, there's an IS-6 over there, and he's doing alright. You don't have to suicide. Ooh, Centurion 7-1 out there somewhere. Hit his ammo rack. Alright. Well, shell in the breach will just kill this tier 9 heavy. Takes another hit from the Centurion. Using the dead IS as cover, but the E75 behind him is dead, so he doesn't need to worry about getting shot in the rear. He can now use this rock as cover as well. It's surprising that the AMX hasn't spotted that Centurion. That AMX up there in the low ground. And there's also an SU-15. There's the Centurion. He's charging the AMX. The AMX has got to be reloading. And as long as he's concentrating on the AMX, looks like he's using the 20-pounder gun. With that rate of fire. Now he's not going to get the third shot in. Well, he's got plenty of health. And the 20-pounder gun is functionally very, very similar to this long 88. So at this point it really just becomes a question of who's got the most health. And Welkins is going to go for it. No guts, no glory. Chicks dig scars. Centurion tracks him. Doesn't do any damage though. Yeah. And game over. Tier 7 heavy tank. Tier 9 game. Ace Tanker, a metric arse ton of credits. 14,000 experience for the first win of the day during the ×5 event. Over 6,000 damage done, and base experience of nearly 1,900. Remember, base experience is before premium account bonuses or win bonuses or event bonuses are factored in. I've had games where even after the bonuses are factored in, I would have been happy to get 1,900 XP. Tier 7 heavy tank, Tier 9 game, Lieutenant Welkins, kicking arse and taking names. Well done. And that, folks, is it for this episode of The Good, The Bad and The Ugly. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next time.